Mitch, one of the other areas I'd love for us to explore just a little bit more deeply is the centrality of real-world evidence and what that means in the context of the discussion we've been having about regulatory evidence, the evolution of healthcare, and so on. Can you comment on that briefly?
Certainly, Rob. So as real-world evidence continues to grow as a research tool, we are now attracting other experts from other fields to help us. So for example, Oracle, Amazon, these are people who are really strong in data science. And what we have learned, we've learned a couple of things, Rob. We've learned that the real-world data systems that we have today, they were designed to either help physicians take care of patients or to track payments and spending. So they weren't designed for real-world evidence for research purposes. And the second thing that we realize now is that this data is not structured. And so we now have experts from very different fields coming in to help us with this issue that Laura talked about, which is standardization. There is a hunger for standardization in this field. What that means, Rob, is that everyone who works with this data, they want to have common data fields, right? And they want to be able to capture the data from different sources, but into a similar format. And that is called the common data model. So I expect we're going to hear a lot more about common data models and how ISPOR will be at the forefront of the standardization process to essentially work with this data and make it fit for purpose for research.
Mitch, this is all really, really fascinating, and so much of what you've been describing, and it builds, of course, on what Laura was describing earlier, speaks to me to a lot of innovation happening in the HEOR space. And I'm just curious, because so much of this is happening in the United States and Western Europe, what do you see as the impact of this innovation on the rest of the world?
Certainly, Rob. We love our lower middle income country members. And the reason why we care about them so much is, number one, they help each other, right? So they learn about HEOR methods and then they apply it and they help each other in various countries. And so it is very encouraging, and candidly, it is a way to disseminate best practices, right? Because of their willingness to be transparent about their challenges around drug value and budget management, and how do they provide the best care for patients in the context of a constrained budget. So the fact that they help each other is something that we want to increase. We want to amplify that. We want to see more representation from these LMIC countries at our conferences, and we want to see more submissions of the best research, and that leads to number two. They produce great science in the LMICs. So while they, on one hand, may learn from the rest of the world and apply it, they produce top-notch research themselves. So we have a lot to learn from them.
Fantastic. I want to transition a little bit now to really look squarely at regulatory evidence and some of the rapid changes that we're seeing, both in the context of clinical trials and what those changes might well herald for patients. So coming out of ISPOR 2024, and again, there's also a lot of work that the Society is doing outside of the conferences as well. But can you talk briefly about what's happening with regulatory evidence in the context of clinical trials, firstly?
Certainly. So we had many experts from many different stakeholder groups at ISPOR 2024. So we had data analysts, we had providers, so if you think about a large health system or a hospital network, we had regulators, and they're all saying the same thing. And they're saying, can we design a frictionless clinical trial system? And so what that means is today, if a patient is seeking care for a disease where their only option is to enroll in a clinical trial, they have to fill out a lot of paperwork, and the physician who is caring for them has to fill out a lot of paperwork. And so this leads back to real-world evidence. They are increasingly looking to ISPOR, and they are looking to the methods that we are developing around real-world evidence. And I think the big idea, Rob, is can all of that data capture sit in the background, right? Is there a way to passively capture more data? And with that, can we do the hard work in the background as researchers and take some of the burden off the physicians and the patients? So that, I think, is the big idea and the big message that's coming out.
That's fantastic. Thanks so much.